Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and this is the Kratos God of War build that I've been working on. By the way, I wanted to thank everybody that's in the Discord that helped me out with this build. Also, for the character looks, the video in the description below is absolutely awesome, so definitely be sure to check that out. Now let's get into this build. So for the main weapon, we went for the Highland Axe because it looks a lot like his axe, and we ended up throwing Chilling Mist on it to give it a frost effect as well. And then for our offhand, we're using the Magma Blade. You can offhand a Fire Whip as well. These don't really go together. They don't have like a combination moveset or anything like that. But since it is Frost and Fire, it still works really well. And it goes with the whole awesome Kratos God of War theme that we have going on here, given the fact that we have the axe and then obviously we have our fire weapon as well. This is a solid build that utilizes Frost and Fire as we mentioned. It does work functionally very well. And another thing I want to mention is as far as the armor and equipment, I'm going to go over to where to get the set that I used. I actually used two different sets for this. We're going to start with where to get the champion armor set. Now, the champion armor set you can grab from this merchant in Caelid if you don't start with it. If you're not the hero class, I think it's the hero that starts with it, I can't remember. One of them starts with it. If you don't start with that armor set, this is the merchant in Caelid where you can get it. I'll show on the map where it is in a second. And we're going to be using that for our main chest piece. And it's a little bit far into Caelid, but Caelid's one of those areas that's open right away to you, so you can just go here and pretty much make a right at Rotview Balcony and work your way down to that spot. Now let's go for the other one, the Battle Mage set. The Battle Mage set is what I used for the rest of the armor, leggings, and whatnot, and this is where you get it from this specific Battle Mage. It has to be this specific one that drops the entire set, and he's in Atlas Plateau. I'm going to show where it is on the map in a second. By the way, that was Orduvis' greatsword. Fantastic weapon art there, as you can tell. There it is in the Atlas Plateau. Not too hard to find that. And now we have our armor. So I know that for Kratos, he has like a medium type shield, a small or medium shield, but I ended up just using the Erdtree shield. You're going to want to look for one that looks more aesthetically pleasing, obviously, if you want to go for the whole theme. But I wanted something that can block, kind of block holy damage too. I thought that was kind of thematic. And it really looked cool with Kratos. It just looked cool in general, having that giant Erdtree shield. So I threw that on just to kind of mix it up. But yeah, shield totally up to you. By the way, everything for this build is in the description like usual below, including that awesome link, and also a thank you to the people that were on Discord. The Discord's been growing like crazy now too, so be sure to join that as well. If you want to join an awesome Elden Ring community, we help each other out. It's been a ton of fun so far. We even have roles now, and as you can contribute, you'll work your way up and you'll get better roles and stuff. It's a lot of fun, and I use that for a lot of builds too, because I have a lot of people in there that are willing to help out or that have really great ideas. And if you do have build ideas, there's a tab for that in the Discord too. I know that was a lot about Discord there, but I never mention it. I forget to mention the Discord until the end of the video or not at all. So I figured this time I'd just go right at it and mention the Discord and try to grow that a little bit because it's been growing. It's been fantastic so far. And as you can see here, back to the build, we're able to build up some frost damage. By the way, you can proc frost on them when they're asleep if you didn't know that. It doesn't wake them up or anything like that. And then we get to use our awesome Magma Blade, which has a phenomenal Ash of War that scales mainly with Faith. It's a strength Faith weapon. They're absolutely fantastic. I have a fire build on my channel for them that utilizes them extremely well. One of the best weapons in the game. Very difficult to farm for, but fits here. It's thematic. And as we continue to fight, you can tell that this build overall is something that really does work quite well against the majority of bosses. Even though we took on a lot of field bosses, the Magma Blades are really, really strong. And then having that Frost Axe too, the combination is actually quite good. Even though they don't have a combination moveset, we're able to utilize them to the best of the ability anyway and go with the whole God of War theme. Speaking of which, since I haven't played PlayStation in a minute, I'm more on Xbox, and I've been with Xbox for a long time, although I've considered getting a PS5 and I'm still thinking about it. They have really good recording capabilities so far, so that would help me as a content creator, but I've also thought about PC as well. Just got the Series X, but anyway, long story short, haven't played God of War in a minute. It's been a while. Didn't play the new one, so I had to look up some scenes, and once again, thank everybody for the Discord for helping me out with this entire build. It was really awesome how it came out. It's a ton of fun to do too. And again, as far as this build goes here on the tree avatar, obviously it's going to take additional fire damage, but we can do that frost with the awesome hand axe, and then we can do the fire damage with the Magma Blade. Again, it builds up and it does a lot of damage, and once again, you can see the build is pretty awesome. And we get to see Kratos take down another beast here in the dragon in Caelid, which can rot half a Caelid. He's not too challenging, by the way. This dragon does take additional fire damage, and I mainly went for field bosses here, but as you guys may already know, the Magma Blades are excellent for the majority of the game, and having Frost in general is also awesome, super helpful there. The combination works really well. Again, doesn't have a combination moveset because we're using a curved sword and a hand axe, but even so, it still does work. By the way, we went heavily in faith and strength for this build because we wanted to make the most out of the Magma Blades because they're so powerful to begin with. Don't get me wrong, the Highland Axe fits more the theme. The Frost Highland Axe is really cool, but it's not going to do as much damage as the Magma Blades because the Magma Blades Ash of War is fantastic, scales heavily with faith, and it does massive fire damage. Speaking of faith, by the way, if you want to use like Blessings Boon and stuff, I did use that. I'll show the buffing in a little bit, obviously, for his quicker healing and regenerated properties and stuff like that. You can use Blessings Boon. I think the Erdtree one, too, can also heal you for a lot, but that one's really, really faith costly. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I generally use Blessings Boon. That'll give you a little bit of extra HP for battle. One downside here, the armor that we're using has incredibly low posture. You're probably seeing that. You're going to get knocked down a lot with just, I think, 20 poise, which is incredibly low. So that is something that's a downside there to think about as far as posture goes. It was a little bit difficult to have that low poise. I know some people usually want to meet that minimum 55 poise threshold so that they can have good hyper armor. Can't remember exactly what the thresholds are specifically. I think it's 55 and then 100 or 105, 110, something like that. And it's basically how much hyper armor you're going to get because hyper armor is multiplying your posture in general. So having low poise for this build, having only 20 was a little bit of a challenge. But then again, we are using the really powerful Magma Blades, so maybe that makes up for it a little bit. And before you know it, here we are. We're going to get into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. For equipment, we have the Highland Axe plus 25 with Chilling Mist. We have 2 Magma Blades. You really only need 1 in the offhand. I use the Erdtree Greatshield. Any seal will do. Champion set on. Then we have the Battle Mage for the rest. Obviously no helm on. Fire Scorpion Charm. Shard of Alexander. Dragoncrest Greatshield Talisman. Rotten Wing Sword Insignia. Then the Fire tier. If you want to throw in the consecutive attack tier or defense tier, they both work fantastically as far as this build goes. Let's get into stats. Now, since the Magma Blade's Ash of War scales almost primarily faith, you could go minimum strength and then high faith, but I wanted to go with the God of War theme, and this is a guy that would definitely have strength stat. Plus, you can do the jump attacks and stuff and get the physical portion of the weapon while going for 50 faith. And this is also a guy that would have a lot of vigor and HP as well, obviously with Kratos being pretty much a god at this point. So yeah, let's just go for high HP. And then we're going to show the buffing system here, which obviously we're going to use Blessings Boon to go with that a little bit thematically as well. And for the first thing, we're going to drink our tier, which has the fire tier in it. Then we're going to cast Golden Vow. Then we're going to use Blessings Boon. Very, very good for this build. And then we use Flame Grant Me Strength. And then we get to do any sort of attacks we want to do after we fill off the FP. And we're going to get a lot of damage out of this. You do the Frost first and then the Fire. Get a lot of damage out of everything. It works very well. And to show off a couple of things that you can do, obviously you can do jump attacks with these since we boosted the physical portion of the weapon a bit as well. And then we have the Erdtree Greatshield, which just looked really cool with Kratos. I thought this looked awesome on him. It just seemed to fit just the way it was. And then obviously being the whole Elden Ring shield basically is just awesome. And we get to use our axe and shield as well. So as Kratos takes on 2 dragons here, and I just threw this in here so I can talk for a little bit at the end of this video, I want to talk about a couple things as far as the channel goes and everything that's involved in it. First things first, as I mentioned earlier, definitely be sure to join the Discord. It's been a ton of fun. That's been growing a lot lately. Obviously with builds like these, it helps out when I have a lot of people on there too that can just like share ideas, talk about stuff, and create builds, do crazy stuff in Elden Ring, and keep the game interesting until Elden Ring DLC comes out, which we now know is inevitable. And again, I mentioned this in my last video. I think it's going to be a late summer, early fall release, somewhere around that time. Might even be after Armored Core, because that makes sense. With that being said, we got to keep this game interesting. We got to keep it fun. It's one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life, so be sure to join that. Be sure to comment, by the way, if there's a build you want to see. I'm making a list. I have a giant list of builds to do. I'm looking forward to all of them. One of those things, by the way, if you comment below, I'll definitely look into it and add it to the list. Just be aware with a lot of the builds and stuff, generally speaking, I keep myself somewhere in the realm of anywhere from 2 to 5 days ahead on content I'm making and doing. So keep in mind, if there's something you request, probably generally between 5 and 7 days before I can post the video or get the content for it, because I am always a little bit ahead. I try to stay a little bit ahead rather than be behind, which obviously makes sense as a content creator. And if there is a patch, I go back and change some things. It is what it is. We are due for a patch sometime soon here too. I know that was a lot at the end here, but I just wanted to talk about a few things that were channel related and take the opportunity to do one of the most fun builds I've done lately. Kratos turned out to look fantastically. Once again, that link's in the description below, and thanks to everybody on Discord that helped me out create this build. This was absolutely a blast to do. Ton of fun to do a build like this. I'd like to do more theme builds in the future. Obviously, it came out great, and it works very well too. I also started a Patreon. I'll leave that in the description below if you want to support the channel even further. I'm going to make some content for that as well. And as far as the Discord goes, that's in the description too. Thanks for watching. There's a ton of awesome builds on my channel. As always, I will catch you guys there.